This week's edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight is brought to you by Left Atlanta Media, Atlanta's best journalist database. Subscribe at leftatlantamedia.com. We are talking again as part of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight with Emma Hurt, who is with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and I should say back with the Journal, back in Atlanta with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Hello, Emma.
Hi. Yes, first time at the AJC. I freelanced way back a little bit, and my dad actually worked for the Constitution, but this is my first time.
Wait, when did your dad work for the Constitution?
Back in the 70s, early
Okay.
70s. He was in Atlanta, and then he was the DC bureau chief, actually.
Okay. So
Hmm.
that was before I started working with the paper. At least that there are some well, the longest lasting folks at the paper now are
Bill
Carrie Tiergarten,
Torpy.
Bill Torpy, Carrie Tiergarten, and Rodney Ho, I think, are in the top five.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
Hmm.
I can't remember who else has been there uh nearly as long, but it is fun sometimes. I look back through my old little media guides and look at some of the names of the folks who were there when I started doing this job. Um,
Yeah.
some of them are still with us, and some of them are not. Some of them have moved on to bigger and better things. So, but oop, bless you.
I muted it. Thank you.
There you go. I can.
Sorry for that sneeze.
It's all right. We're real here.
We're real
Sneeze,
people,
sneezes.
journalists. They're just like
That's right.
us.
That's
Yeah.
right. Journalists sneeze too.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, that could have been the name for my podcast. Journalists
Ah.
sneeze too. Maybe it'll be a sub. Maybe it'll be my subhead. All right.
Uh-huh.
So let's see. Let's start with what you're doing now for the Journal Constitution. Then I want to talk a little bit about your departure from Atlanta and you because you were here before. So let's talk about first what you're doing now for the AJC.
Yeah, and thank you for having me back, Mitch. It's so fun to
Absolutely.
to have this conversation.
Yeah.
I am a business reporter. I cover the airport. I cover Delta, UPS, and Norfolk Southern. So I say planes, trains, and trucks. And I've been doing that since December.
And let's see. And so before, I guess let's kind of do the back step a couple of years now.
Mhm.
So gosh, 4 or 5 years ago, what were you doing here in Atlanta?
4 or 5 years ago would have been 2020,
Okay, let's go for 20. Let's
2021.
let's say 2020. Yeah.
I was working for WABE covering state politics. So I started there for the 2018 election by accident, got asked to cover politics, was not the plan. And I was a contractor and I said, whatever you need, I'll do it. And then it was suddenly 2018 and Brian Kemp and Stacey Abrams Part One in Georgia. And very quickly that became uh, a massive coverage stream that carried us all through 2020 election, COVID, and then the 2021 Senate runoffs, and then the 2022 Senate election again. And there was another runoff in there. And somewhere in there, I actually switched from WABE to Axios and helped launch Axios Atlanta and covered politics there as well.
Yeah, there was that whole series of because I think you and I were at the Atlanta Press Club debates for back and forth for months and
We
months.
did.
God, and
Yes,
there
we
were
did.
debates and there were empty podiums.
There was a lot. I think we were all just so tired by the end
When
of
I,
that
when was the
long
one we
5 year
did?
stream.
I know. When was the one? There was one we did like COVID was in full force, but we did a debate and we had like we separated the debaters from the journalists were in kind of the other side of the building at GPB and everybody was in masks and it was all good and it was supposed to be separated and then one of the candidates decided I'm going to do a press conference right after my debate and all of a sudden there was like we're like wait no we're having a pandemic we're not supposed to be doing this but I don't know what to do to stop it now.
That was a crazy time.
Yeah.
It was like it was split screen reporting for a while as well because the Republicans and the Democrats had such different approaches to the pandemic. And so as a journalist, as you're going back and forth, I remember like July of 2020 going to a small indoor in-person gathering where no one was wearing masks for a Republican candidate and stepping in and being like, this is a different world from the, drive-through, drive-in rally that the Democrats were having at the same time. It was a pretty surreal experience when you reflect on it.
We had one of those debates where there was I won't name the outlet, but there was a reporter for a conservative television network who she didn't want to wear a mask. And we were telling her, it's like, you have to wear the mask if you want to stay in this building. It's like, it's not me, it's the building rules. And so she would go off in a corner and take her mask off, and I'd glare at her, and she'd put her mask on. But she was trying to make a statement. I'm like, okay, whatever you want to do. So,
Yeah, it's a lot.
so flash forward, as we say, to planes, trains,
Hmm.
and trucks. How does the Norfolk Southern news from last week or two? What is that going to mean for your beat and for Atlanta?
Yeah.
Is it kind of lessen take one piece off your plate?
It's kind of wild. For those who might not have read, Norfolk Southern, it was announced last week, is going to attempt to be acquired by Union Pacific, which is a West Coast Midwestern railroad. Norfolk Southern is the Atlanta-based East Coast Railroad Company, and they would combine into the first transcontinental railroad company, one company. And it's a huge deal for our railroad industry because there are only six class one rails in North America. And so a consolidation like this, huge deal. And it's a huge deal for Atlanta because Norfolk Southern is the smaller company, and this new headquarters would move to Omaha, Nebraska, where Union Pacific is. And so it means that Atlanta would lose the Fortune 500 company headquarters that it spent, city and state leaders spent a lot of time trying to make happen back in 2018, 2017. So they haven't been here that long even.
No,
But even though
it
Norfolk,
feels like that building just opened.
it did in 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It did. So you're not wrong.
I'm not crazy.
And
Well, not
there are about
entirely.
3,000 employees at the headquarters, and we don't have a good sense of how that will impact. Specifically, we know that the companies have promised to keep their unionized employees employed, but there are a lot of job functions in that Midtown Tower that many say are at risk with a new consolidated company looking to save costs. So it's a tense time, I would imagine, in that building right now. I do also think it's worth like putting into deeper context what this is because Atlanta's relationship with the railroad is notable as well. Atlanta's first name, as we know, was Terminus. It's why Atlanta became a hub. It doesn't have like any other natural draw to it that would make it a hub of commerce.
We're
It
not
started with the railroad.
we're not like New Orleans. We're not on a
We're
big
not like New
river.
Orleans. We don't have a big river port.
Right.
Exactly. And so the railroads are key to Atlanta's history. And in fact, like I cover Norfolk Southern here, the railroad, and James Cox, the founder of Cox Enterprises, which owns the AJC, his first reporter job was covering the railroad back in Ohio. So there are all these like historical dimensions to this story. And so the idea that Norfolk Southern could by 2027 be leaving its at least its headquarters and very likely never to return, it would seem, is a huge deal. Now, I will say they, of course, say they will maintain a large presence here. They had one before the headquarters moved, but it's still a blow to Atlanta.
Right, right. And I mean, and I guess, and I'm glad you clarified that because I kind of threw that out there with without explaining it to to anybody what we're talking about. And I guess for, obviously whenever this kind of merger happens, you know, two HR departments, you only need one, two accounting departments, two PR departments, two of so many kind of administrative departments that you don't need anymore.
Hmm.
So I don't know how many people that part of it, amounts to in Metro Atlanta. But as you said, it's a shiny, pretty building on the skyline, and that as we said is relatively new, and it's like the last thing the
Yeah.
city needs, more glut of office space, right?
Yeah. Although, the economic development world is, optimistic that they'd be able to fill that office space, find someone new. I'm writing about a new corporate relocation to the metro area, publishing on Monday. So, people continue to move here, but it is a hit. And I also, will say that it's worth noting a lot of those Norfolk Southern employees just moved here for this job
Well,
when
years
they were
ago, yeah,
asked to relocate
right.
for the headquarters. And so you have humans in that building who are going to have to decide, maybe we have an offer in Nebraska, but do I want to move to Nebraska? I just moved my family here. There's a lot of complexity when you have something like this happen.
Well, and Omaha is a big change in a lot of ways from Atlanta.
It's a big change, and it was a big
Yeah.
change for a lot of them to come here from all the other places that, operations and other offices were. So all with the caveat, of course, this is going to require a lot of federal approval, and could take a year and a half to get that approval. So stay tuned, folks.
Is there a chance that the so which department is this FTC? Which no,
It's
which
the
which
Surface Transportation Board,
okay.
which regulates
Is
freight rail.
is there a chance that the government looks at this and says this is monopolistic and
There's a
stifles
chance.
your
There's a chance. There's a lot of complex dynamics happening with freight rail, because that board has been working to improve competition in what is already kind of inherently a monopolistic type industry, right? Like you can't just go and build rail next to Norfolk Southern and compete, just like you can put a truck up on the highway next to someone else. So it is inherently a difficult industry to compete in. But Norfolk Southern and Union Pacific are going to make the argument that they think it will improve competition broadly because it will allow them to better compete with their real competitors in their minds, which are trucks, by offering cheaper and more like less friction in the shipping journey. Because right now, when freight is handed off between these, Eastern, Western rail networks, there's like friction. They have to hand it over. It takes time. It slows it down. And so they say if we could be all one, our customers would have more competitive options. But there are obviously a lot of people in the industry, unions in particular, that don't feel that way, that are concerned about further consolidation of influence in the industry. I mean, I might butcher the stat, but I think it was in 1980 there were like 40 class one railroads, and now there are six. Like this has been a long journey,
just
and
because they've been purchased by the
hmm
competitors and
yep.
kind of winnowed down. What does this have? What is there an impact on the port of Savannah and how that port works and how it transports goods, or does that really not?
Um, I don't know the answer to that specifically, but I do know that Norfolk Southern has a big presence, and CSX have big presences at the Port of Savannah, and the Port of Savannah will remain a crucial gateway. And so, in a way, like the effect of this merger is more felt in the headquarters, right? Because you still need the same people to operate
Yeah, yeah.
trains wherever they are. So, those like operations, I would expect would continue. And the freight that comes that people are purchasing will continue to come through the Port of Savannah when it makes sense.
Have you watched The Gilded Age, that show?
No, I haven't.
A lot of that show centers around a guy who's like a railroad baron in the 18,
Ah,
1920s.
yeah.
And we're watching the show now, and he's in the process of trying to acquire another railroad. And it's talking about JP Morgan and the financiers and the railroad business. So it's
Yeah.
it's it's kind of interesting that way.
The
Um,
railroad business is like integral to our history, but it's very difficult to understand in modern times because it's not consumer facing. People don't interact with it
right.
directly, and it's hard to understand it because it also plays by a little bit different rules. Like I said before, it's kind of monopolistic inherently in a way that other fully capitalist industries are not, some
Yeah.
would argue.
So your other big beat is the airport and Delta too, right?
The airport and Delta and UPS. But
And
yes,
UBS.
the
Okay.
airport and Delta
Yeah.
take up a lot of my time for obvious reasons.
What's what do you see as kind of new and upcoming on the airport side? Is there other big stories or interesting trends that you're seeing at the airport?
You know, I kind of had the weird coincidence to come into this beat the year that Delta and the Atlanta airport are having their centennials. And so it's given me the chance to tell these kind of big picture stories about their histories, about their presence, and about their futures, the next 100 years for both, and about how they intersect. Like you actually can't tell the story at the Atlanta airport without Delta, and vice versa. The way that airlines and airports coexist and are so entwined is unlike anything else, I think, in our economy. So, so I've been able to do a lot of that reporting in terms of what's next. Like I'm thinking now about my story that will come this fall about the next 100 years of the airport and what does that look like and what are former GMs and former mayors and aviation experts and Delta officials saying about that? What do they hope for it? Um, and with that, comes this like existential question about our identity as the world's busiest airport, right? And what growth is yet to come, and can we handle that growth? Can this airport terminal that was built in 1980 continue to keep up? They're spending $1 billion a year on infrastructure improvement and expansion at the airport, but is that enough? The airport development infrastructure and planning head has said it's deteriorating faster than they can keep up with. So can we stay the world's busiest with that, um,
What is that?
with those
What is that?
dynamics?
I mean, and I'm sure most airports have that same issue of kind of keeping up with infrastructure and having to constantly be spending money to fix the things that are getting older. I mean, we've got an older airport. I mean, is a solution to build a second airport somewhere? I mean, that's been floated for so many years and never seems to go anywhere.
Yeah, these are the questions. I mean, so one thing that like has become clear to me about the Atlanta airport is its biggest strengths are also kind of its Achilles heel. So it is close to downtown Atlanta, unlike other major airports, right? Which means it doesn't have extra acreage. It does not, it's landlocked. Um, and so when it comes to, see other airports that have been able to find ways to like build wholesale new terminals or concourses, that's pretty hard for the Atlanta airport. You just look at the map and you're like, where can they put it? There's no space. Um, the other, strength is its busyness, right? Being the world's busiest, and busyness entails efficiency, which is what makes it attractive for Delta and other airlines to operate there. But when you do large infrastructure projects, you have to stop some of the traffic. There's no way where for it to go, and you want to rebuild a terminal. And so those timelines to do that get longer. Like you just look at Concourse D, which is being expanded in a kind of modal way where they're like nearby, they're building these big new parts of the gates to make it bigger, and they literally like roll them overnight into
Right,
place.
right.
But they're only doing a few gates at a time because Delta said we can't give up more gates at once. And so that means the project is going to take far longer than it would have if they could just shut down half of Concourse D. It would be faster, but you give up the busyness and the routes.
So
So it's
yeah,
existential, yeah.
yeah. Well, let me ask you, as a reporter, I mean, your beat is a little bit somewhat unique in terms of how reporters cover news segments. I mean, a lot of reporters are covering, you know, business in general or food or features, but you're covering very specifically, some specific entities. As a reporter, are there challenges to focusing on specific companies like that. You're Delta, the airport, Norfolk Southern. How is that dynamic different when you're kind of have the beat that's that way?
Yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity as well, especially in this media market, to have like a little bit of a walled garden to
Right?
dig into. It's part of what attracted me to the job was I was craving a little bit of focus and um, getting the time to understand um, more and deeply. I will say as a journalist, like it means you're constantly juggling how much you know about a thing and what you might personally now find interesting as someone who knows too much about the airport. But is that still something that everyone else finds interesting,
Right,
Emma? Or is
right.
that just you, the now new aviation nerd, thinking that's interesting?
Yeah.
And that is a challenge with a beat with this specialization because the more you learn, your own comprehension evolves, but like everyone else is still normal. And so you want to still talk to them. So I often try to gut check story ideas with like not my colleagues, my husband, my friends, like, do you find this interesting? And
Do you hear about how many screws how many miles of cable the
right,
airport really needs to make the lights
right,
work?
right. And like maybe they do, maybe they
Yeah.
do. I was surprised, and sometimes it's surprising to me. Like we filmed a video about the Flint River, which headwaters begin under the Atlanta airport, me and a colleague on the video team. And initially we weren't totally sure if it would be able to carry its own video, that people would be as interested in it, but they were, and it did extremely well. Just the fact that there is this river that runs under the Atlanta airport. So
Been on the Flint a bunch of
that
times, but
also is a surprise as well.
that's interesting. I may have known that, but that's interesting.
Yeah,
I've
you can watch
canoed the
our
Flint.
video about
I've
it.
been on the
Yeah.
Flint a lot, but I've never started under the airport and canoed all the way down to
You
Central
can't
Georgia.
start under the airport. It's quite a security risk, but you can see in
Right.
our video like where it disappears in a concrete tube under
Yeah.
the airport and it comes out
It comes
and
out.
runs wild from there until the Gulf of Mexico and it's beautiful, but it's pretty crazy.
We we found this. My wife found this series of videos. Like, one of them was like the world underneath the Atlanta airport. Or
Uh-huh.
it was kind of a cool. It was like a series,
Yeah.
world under the airport, and the secret life of cruise ships, and that kind of thing. But
Uh-huh.
it was an interesting all the infrastructure, and
Yeah.
you sometimes you barely see it when you're on the train. You see like you see when you go to the end, you'll see like the way the train yard goes off in one direction. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's other stuff here other than this tube, and you think there's a whole world under here that
There's a whole world.
yeah,
Yeah. It's a
yeah.
city within a city. And we're actually working on something about that as well. But I will say the benefit of this beat is while Norfolk Southern is a little trickier, like the airport and Delta and UPS are brands that people really know. And so there is a consumer facing component of it where I can't get like locked in my ivory tower of business strategy and tariff tariff response and regulatory debate. You have to make sure you're also speaking to the people that fly Delta and that use the Atlanta airport and that mail UPS packages as
Yeah, I
well.
mean, you had an interesting story a couple of months ago. I think it was was it out of CES, Delta talking about kind of
Mm-hmm.
being more like experiential, I think was the term.
They're launching a AI chatbot. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of other things. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
that was
it
their
was one of those,
centennial kickoff.
right. That's what, yeah, it was that. But
Hmm.
it was kind of that idea that, they're moving, they want to move beyond, I guess, just
Hmm.
the company that flies you to places. They want to be more,
They
right?
want to be I mean, they think of themselves as like one of the most important brands in the country is their goal, a lifestyle brand, a tech company, that can kind of take care of your travel in a holistic way.
Emma, so, looking at Delta, UPS, and Norfolk Southern, how many employees do they have in Metro Atlanta?
So Delta is the largest private employer in Metro Atlanta. It has about 40,000 here, about 100,000 globally. UPS has about 4,000 here and 500,000 globally. And Norfolk-Southern has about 3,000 in that Atlanta headquarters. I think it's about 4,000 statewide. Um, but yeah, there are a lot of them. And that's another of my constituencies as a writer, right? Are those employees. That's another readership we think about.
Right, right. And I guess it's interesting because I guess for Norfolk Southern, for example, the as you say, the rank and file, the people who run the trains, I guess they're probably not as worried about their jobs, are they, for the most part?
That's what we're hearing, but they are worried about their new employer, right? Like Norfolk Southern has been on quite a journey around safety since the East Palestine accident
Mm.
derailment in 2023. It was, as we know, a huge deal. And since then, the company has invested a lot in changing its training and trying to show the world that they are going to be a safer railroad.
Yeah.
And so, what happens to that progress when a new company takes over, right? That's what those employees are worried about right now, according to, my reporting and leaders I've
Yeah.
talked to.
All right. Okay, so we're going to jump now to the most challenging question I always ask people. And it might be interesting to see how your answer to the question differs from when I asked this question 3 years ago. So what's the coolest thing about Emma that people might not know about? And I don't
I
remember.
don't
I,
know.
I didn't
I
I
don't
didn't go
know that
back and check. I didn't go back
I
and
don't
check
know
to
that
see
I'm
what
all
some of
that
the
cool, to be honest, Mitch. I mean, I guess like what is cool is that my husband recently got a pickup truck, which means that I recently got a kayak. So I will strap my kayak into the pickup truck and go find water where I can.
that
And
is a great hobby. We opted for the inflatable kayak because I didn't feel like buying the roof rack. So
yeah,
it's
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 tricky. I've done the inflatable as well, and I hate inflating it. So somehow I chose, now I have a path to carry the hard
right.
one. I'm like gonna do it, although it's none of it is like convenient. You have to work a little bit for that hobby.
There
But
is a little work to it. Yeah, we've got we have a tandem, a two-person inflatable, and we've kind of got it down to about 10 minutes to get it set up after doing it a bunch.
that's
Um,
impressive. Also,
yeah,
tandem kayaking is impressive. I don't have the strength to do that with someone else. That takes a lot of mental patience.
there's a little bit of that, but we have done it a lot, and we're still married, so there's
Great.
yeah. Although I do hit her with my paddle sometimes, but I get the glare. If
Yeah.
it because if I'm in the back, I have to kind of be concentrating on her cadence, and if she gets off
Mhm.
cadence, I need to adjust, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Otherwise, I whack her paddle with my paddle. All right,
So
so
funny.
it's mostly good,
Yeah.
except yeah, it's mostly good. The first couple of times we had a little bit of arguing, but we got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next couple of questions here, these are short answers. You don't have to get too far into detail, but what is either the last book you've read or the last podcast you've listened to?
I am in the middle. This seems like a lame answer, but I'm in the middle of Breakdown, the newest season of Breakdown that my colleagues Tamar Hallerman and Bill Rankin have done, and I'm pretty enthralled by it. Um, it's a very different storyline than others they've done, and it took a lot of reporting and time, so it's worth a listen.
I did see that Bill is retiring from Breakdown in the near future after what, 10
He is,
years or
this is
so?
his
Yeah.
last season. He's done
Yeah.
11. This is the
11 years.
11th
Yeah.
season. It's amazing.
All right.
Yeah.
So, favorite local restaurant?
Ooh, um, it's in my neighborhood, so it's got to be Gigi's Italian Kitchen, which is in Candler Park.
Yeah,
We walk there,
that is a
and
good one.
it's
Okay.
excellent.
Favorite guilty pleasure?
Okay, this answer I think hasn't changed from the last time we talked, which is Voga's dark chocolate dairy-free gelato. It is so good, and I still love it, and I still get very upset if it's not in stock when we go.
Okay. Um, let's see. Favorite local getaway?
We love Lake Raven. We just went a few weeks ago. Lakemont and Lake Raven and Clayton are just so fun and not that far. And they have a lot of character and soul, and we love it.
All right. And favorite non-work hobby?
I mean, besides kayaking, I really love to ski. And we moved to Colorado for a little bit recently and we're able to ski a lot. It's a lot harder to do it here, but we
Yeah.
did recently go to North Carolina to ski for the first time. It's quite different, but at least it scratches the itch and it is driving distance.
Yeah, it is. It is a different experience, but as you said, yeah, you get a little
It's just a
taste of it.
different sport. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
different.
Excellent. All right, we have been talking with Emma Hurt with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Thank you, Emma, so much. Emma is a returning to Atlanta reporter. We're now working for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, covering Delta, the airport, and Norfolk-Southern and UPS. And you can find her stories on ajc.com or set one of those alerts so all of Emma's stories pop up. There you go. That's what everybody should do, right?
Yeah, amen.
There
Thanks,
you go.
Mitch.
There you
Thanks for
go.
the plug. It's been so fun to talk to you. You have to tell me where your kayaking spots are
I
now.
will. I will.
Yeah.
You can track me on social media sometimes when we get out there.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So thanks everybody for joining us today. As always, you can find our archive of More Questions Journalist Spotlight podcast on YouTube and on the audio version on Apple Podcasts and Amazon and Google and all those places where you find audio podcasts. Click the subscribe button if you want. You don't get any prizes or anything, but it may make you feel better. Maybe it'll make me feel better. I don't know. And as always, check out our Left's Atlanta Media database of uh, Atlanta journalists if you're looking for journalists to connect with. And you'll get our Mitch's Media Musings blog and newsletter that comes with that. Keep track of all the interesting things happening in Atlanta's media community. Emma, thank you so much, and we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.